Hey everybody, welcome back to Tattoo Talk Tuesday. If it's your first time joining us on Tattoo Talk Tuesday, this is our weekly interactive talk show where we take user-submitted questions and lend our experience to you guys. So this week, we have another little collaboration, more discussion-based kind of episode, which I feel like is the most honest representation, I feel like, of, I don't know, forgive me for saying tattoo culture, but everything I ever wanted from this tattoo series is based off of the conversations I honestly share with people. So I'm so stoked today to bring you onto the channel. If you just want to introduce yourself a little bit, some of you guys might be a little familiar, but this was a little episode kind of in the making for a little while now.
Yeah. So, hi, my name is Rachel. My Instagram handle's peachyxhoney. I was in the tattoo convention vlog for a couple seconds, so you might have seen me and my hair there. I've been following Amanda on
we've been
Tumblr
mutuals for
5 years. Yeah. So once I was living in Chicago and I was deciding to move out east, and Amanda was one of the first people out in Philly that I had discovered on Tumblr, and I followed her on Tumblr and Instagram for a long time, and we finally met up at the Philadelphia Tattoo Convention a couple months ago.
But it felt like, I don't know, it didn't feel like we're meeting for the first time.
Yeah, it felt like we were just hanging out.
We walked up to each other and we were like, are we getting food?
Yeah, it was so chill. It felt really good to just click right away.
Yeah. So at Tattoo Convention, you talked to me about this idea, and I thought it was really cool. So feel free to introduce it.
Yeah. So I just started running a blog towards the fall of last year. It's called Donut Jams. I always wanted to start a blog, but I didn't really know what to talk about, and I finally kind of grinded it down to the two main things that I really care about, which is coffee and coffee culture and music. And I had this thought rolling around my head for a while that was just does being in the music scene and being into alternative music equal being tattooed? And I decided to kind of run that idea with you because you talk a lot about tattoos and I talk a lot about music on my blog, so it'd be a really cool chance to collaborate.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the support you guys have brought to the table. You brought a lot of interesting topics into this kind of thought, and I thought it would be really cool to explore what is that connection? And I do get a lot of questions on here about punk music and what does punk mean to you? And I think this was such a good idea, such great timing to talk about, is there that connection between music and music culture, musicians, and being tattooed, being a tattoo person, or even interests in tattoos? So I think we're gonna break down this episode and kind of explore that topic together. And then there's some questions that you guys submitted that we thought really belonged on the episode as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So stay tuned for more of a discussion about these connections, a little bit of questions at the end, and I will link your blog post in the description for you guys to check out as well. I think this is really cool. I'm super stoked.
Yes, it's going to be awesome.
So when you talked to me about this subject, I thought it was really interesting because when you think about the development of you, if you're tattooed, if you just have one tattoo, if you are heavily tattooed, I feel depending on where you started in your journey, it has to start somewhere. And for me, like, we were talking about it earlier, and it seems really cheesy, but I was like, what was the first, like, tattooed person I ever saw? And I feel like when I was starting to get into music and stopped listening to, like, what was on the radio and really started to, like, identify, like, I prefer this over this, I was breaking out of that, like, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC kind of thing.
Britney Spears,
Spice Girls, like, taking those posters down and really starting to develop myself. And I really think, like, the first couple of people I saw that were tattooed, I feel like I just started listening to, like, Linkin Park on the radio, and I was really into music videos, and I think his name's Chester, right?
I think so, yeah.
He had these, like, flame tattoos. Like, they started here and it was, like, flames. And then also Eminem, like,
yeah,
I went through, like, a pretty heavy, like, Eminem thing.
Same.
And I remember,
those music
like,
videos are so deep.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he had the like Detroit D and then the 12, and then I'm pretty sure he had like something down here, maybe like every person's name from D12, and he had the like belly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just always in like that white t-shirt, and you could see
Yeah.
those tattoos.
I feel like even really early on, before like when Eminem came out, like, I don't know, like
2001 or something.
2000, yeah. I must have been like 11 or 12, so obviously I wasn't like, I'm gonna get tattooed to look like Eminem. But the influence was there.
Yeah.
And I think, like, as I got older and I was, like, kind of channeling, like, okay, I'm starting to develop a personality, where's it gonna go? The music that you like is one of the first identifying things that, like, I don't know, like, my mom dressed me until I was, like, 16.
Same, yeah.
But I was allowed to, like, buy CDs and posters, and it was, like, music was kind of one of those things that was really self-identifying for me outside of, like, what I could control. Like, my mom is feeding me, my mom is buying my clothes, but my mom will give me a couple bucks to go to FYE, and I can pick out the music I like.
No, yeah, my dad would be like, okay, you have, like, $5 you can spend on iTunes to get stuff. Just make sure, you know, you get, like, the clean version.
Yeah.
And, I would be so into it. My iPod still has, like, a bunch of, like, early 2007, like, R&B on it.
Yeah.
And I was so into it, like, until I reached, like, 8th grade, and I met, like, my first emo boy. And I was just like, oh my god, I need you in my life.
Oh my god.
We need to have our romance. And he wore like this MCR jacket, like the hoodie, every day. He lived in it. I was like, it was really funny because I had just realized that, like, oh, I'm not too fat to wear Hollister. So I started wearing Hollister, but I only wore it for like 2 months, and then I realized I wanted to be emo.
Yeah.
And then everything changed. And my whole music changed.
It's like, I don't know, it's like, definitely in high school or like middle school, you couldn't be like, I'm gonna be emo now, but that's what it is. You're like, you see the influence, and that's kind of what you want to follow. And like, yeah, when I was 12, 13, like, I listened to Eminem, but then like it kind of developed out of that, and you want to like surround yourself in what is you. And I think that's why, like, I don't know, I don't want to say like, oh, that's why I started getting tattoos, because I was listening to Green Day, but I don't know, you want to identify with the only thing you can have. And when I was growing up, in Philadelphia, there was a radio station called Y100, and it was like kind of pop punk. I don't know if any of you guys remember Y100, but I remember I got a radio for my birthday, and every night I listened to all of that music. And I don't listen to the radio anymore. I feel like there's not a station like it anymore, but listening to that music, you can't really grasp it. And when I was growing up, like, we had a house computer, so there wasn't like a ton of research I could do. All you could really do was surround yourself with that music, and then that's when you develop. Then you're like, all right, I have the music, now I want to look like the music.
Exactly. Like, you know, when you're in high school, like, the closest thing you can do to, like, start fitting into that is, like, your clothing choices and, like, your hair. And, you know, the farther out you go with it, the more you, like, get into it, you know. I had lots of friends that, like, you know, had their nose or their septum pierced when they were, like, 14, 15. and stuff like that. Like I had my septum pierced when I was 17.
Yeah.
So you start out with that, and then the farther deep you go into it, and the more you like stay with that like counterculture and that like genre, that's like when you start realizing like, oh, I want to get like tattooed now. Like the more like I said earlier, like the first time I really started like realizing that I wanted to like have tattoos was when I got like involved with the local music scene and was like going to local shows, and I was like really like deep into it. Like I was like the girl with the camera, like taking pictures of all the bands and stuff. Yes. And just like seeing all like these rock stars with like their sleeve of tattoos and stuff, like, oh, you're really cool and I want to fit in with this. Like I want to be cool like you. So yeah. I'm going to get some tattoos.
I feel like being able to fit in with the music that you relate to, it's a good feeling. I mean, when I kind of started to develop exactly the music I was into, like, not only did, like, listening to punk kind of supplement me, because I was like, I get this and I like it. Wow, that feels good to like music, instead of just, like, you're in the car with your mom and she's like, oh, I loved TLC when you were a kid. And I'm just like, yeah, Mom. Then you start identifying, and then you find people who like the same music as you, and then you're like, oh, I had such a hard time making friends until I bridged that gap.
Exactly.
And we both like punk, and then that's how I started going to shows, because I stopped trying to like be friends with like the people I looked up to, and like you break that tie from like, oh, the popular kids dictate what I like. And then when I started to like meet punk kids and they were alternative and they would take me to shows, it's kind of just like
you start to meet at the same level.
Yeah. And you want to like celebrate that feeling as much as possible. And then I think that's like where like punk fashion, emo fashion, and then it goes even a little further than that. And then I think that's where a lot of people, like on our Twitter poll, they said that like, no, music and tattoos don't have that connection. And I think that's really true. But I think everybody kind of meets it somewhere different. And you were kind of saying this earlier. Like, you can see someone at the show with no tattoos, but then sometimes you see somebody like head to toe.
Yeah.
What do you think that's about?
Oh, geez. I think it's just about the ways that people just kind of relate to the culture. Like we were saying, we both know people who like are very much ingrained into like the punk scene, and they like look totally normal. Like I have my friend Brian, he is like, he runs like so much of the Springfield, Illinois punk scene. Like he like helps run the all ages venue. He owns his record shop called Dumb Records. And they're starting up a recording studio there as well for all like the local bands to use. And if you saw him on the street, like he looks super normal. Like he just has like blonde hair, wears like a t-shirt and like not even skinny jeans, just like normal pants and like sneakers. And you wouldn't know that he's like the punkest kid in the neighborhood. But then when you see him at the shows, he just goes so hard.
Yeah. I think like your involvement definitely reflects, I guess, like how you look on the outside, because we were saying earlier in the movie SLC Punk, there's like that one kid, I forget what actor it is, but he's in all the scenes and he's just like normal and regular, and like you can go the extreme and like have the fucking mohawk and like that's how you dress every single day, and every day you're just like punk as fuck. Or you could be that kid with the glasses regular, but then when you go to the show, like you're alive, and then like that's where it takes part. So it's like you can celebrate punk as a fashion statement, and that's just how you feel. Or you can get the tattoos and wear them, and that's just like another way to show your involvement. Or you could have the record label and like the record store and just like be so ingrained in the like local culture, and like that's how you express it. So there's definitely so many ways to express it too, and it's cool that tattooing can be one of those things. Yeah,
I feel like this can like not even just like with punk culture, but also with like the hardcore culture. Like I was like talking earlier about how it seems like the heavier the music is, like the more heavily tattooed they are, but there still are like a lot of like hardcore bros that look like super, they look just like, they look super dad.
Yeah.
Like they just wear like cargo shorts and like a polo or something, but then they'll like go super hard in the pit at like these hardcore shows and stuff. But
yeah, that's really interesting because This Is Hardcore. It's like a hardcore music festival that happens in
coming
Philadelphia.
up, yeah.
Every year, you can kind of see like who's going.
I just heard it.
Yeah. And like when I worked at the coffee shop, like that weekend, it was always like, there's a lot of cool kids here all of a sudden. I bet they're going to This Is Hardcore. And you can like kind of identify them, not because they're wearing like a This Is Hardcore shirt, but you can kind of just like always recognize when they're around. And it might be because they're fully tattooed. It might be because they like have that cargo shorts.
Yeah, the camo shorts.
And like the Nike Dunks or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like sometimes you just want to express that music that you love. And it might be to make friends and bridge that gap, or it might be to like show what you love every day. And sometimes that's by getting a tattoo and getting it permanent, and you might show it or you might not. So what are your final thoughts on the question that you posted?
I mean, it was definitely something, like when I posted the Twitter poll, I was asking just like, does, you know, being into alternative music or being a musician equal being tattooed? And I know that like a lot of people say like they don't like automatically like always correlate. And that's kind of something what I expected. Like, yes, I was a little surprised that the majority of the answer was completely no.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's something that just kind of depends. Like, obviously, you know, especially nowadays, like there's like celebrities that are tattooed. And, you know, there's country music singers that are tattooed and stuff like being
Justin
tattooed.
Bieber has a ton of tattoos.
And a lot of them are religious, too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's like being someone who's from, like, a very, like, conservative small town in the middle of the Midwest, like, there are, like, there's always those people that are going to have one or two tattoos. Like, they're going to have, like, the infinity sign on their wrist or something. And they might not be into like a counterculture or into the punk scene or anything like that. But I do feel like they correlate in some way. Yeah. And they can like relate to each other. Even like I posted about it on my Facebook, and even my mom commented on it. She was like, "Of course they do." She's like, "You stupid punk kid." She's like, you start going to those little local shows, and ever since then you've been getting worse and worse.
Yeah, I can definitely see how it could be like a uniform of your counterculture to like definitely look a certain way. But I don't know. I think it's really interesting to talk about because it definitely does go both ways. And on the Twitter poll, I answered like, it depends. You had that. Because I think that it just really depends on like your involvement and like how deep do you go into it, and like how much do you want to publicly share or wear forever your involvement.
Yeah, like, my roommate, the way that she responded, she works as a barista, and she just started, like, a punk band called Pork Lord, and she said that, you know, she didn't really feel like they fully correlate. She's like, you know, I know people who, you know, are baristas or work as bartenders and stuff that are heavily tattooed, and other ones that aren't at all, and I've seen people in the music scene that aren't tattooed at all, but it's definitely, like a counterculture thing, and like she talked a lot about how like in the nowadays it seems like being tattooed is more like acceptable in society, which is true. Like it's getting better for sure, but I feel like it's only been like over the past like 5 years when it's really starting to be like fully socially acceptable. But there's still a lot of baby boomers in the world that still aren't ready to accept it. But I feel like, you know, if you look over the past like 10 or 20 years, like being tattooed very much was like an alternative thing. It's changing now, but if you think like especially back when we were like teenagers, like it was very much like an alternative thing to have like tattoos, especially visible tattoos.
I think that's all really interesting. I think like the hardest part about it is like when you are developing that stuff, when you are watching Linkin Park music videos for the very first time, you're so young that the access to the tattoos isn't there. So I think like a lot of people now are like, once they're turning like 16, 17, asking parents' permission to get the tattoos, 18, 19, getting a ton of tattoos. I've noticed a lot of that too, but I think it's definitely really interesting, and that a lot of that might be like how old you are when you find like your little niche too, because like in high school, like middle school, high school, I loved punk. But then I kind of transitioned into like listening to a lot more indie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, how do you celebrate that? So I don't know if there's always a connection between like your favorite music and the tattoos you get, but it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, because it's definitely something like your taste in music is going to change. Like, I think everyone's always still gonna love the music that they listened to in high school.
Definitely.
Like, it's still gonna be like a nostalgia type of thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just like with anything, like your taste changes over time. Like, I don't wear the same stuff that I wore in middle school. So thank God.
Yeah. So we have some user submitted questions that we're going to hit today too. Let us know down in the comments, like, how did you feel? What is your opinion on the question? And did you vote in the Twitter poll? You can always follow me on Twitter if you want. So our first question here is, people say to avoid band logo tattoos. Why do you think people say that, and how do you personally feel? So the band logo.
Yeah. I think a lot of people say that just because it's kind of like a cliche thing now. It's just like, oh, how original of you, you got their logo. Mm-hmm. And it's something that like, especially like you've talked about, like stealing tattoos and stuff like that. Like so many people probably already have that tattoo. So you getting the logo is just like, it's nothing that special maybe. Yeah. But it could still be very special to that person. Mm-hmm. Like I have this one on my arm. Here, I can get a closer shot. So this is kind of like the band logo for my friend's band. They're called Ghost Key. I did get it like slightly adjusted, like the flower that's in there isn't in their actual logo. But they're friends from my hometown. Like they're some of the first people that I met when I started getting involved in the local music scene. And they've really like progressed since then. Like they've been signed to some major labels. They just did their first like full US tour.
So cool.
So I was like, I need to steal this in before it becomes like too popular. Yeah. So yeah, I just got this like in support of them and just, my mutual love of all of the guys in that band. But yeah, I can understand where people are coming from with that.
Like you see why people are like, don't do it, but you are still like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. This is like, I'm gonna do it anyways because this is what I felt like doing. And like a lot of people do kind of like put their own twists on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you don't want to put a twist on it, that's fine. I still support you. Like, because there are still some like really sweet logos out there for some of the bands. And we were talking a lot. I'm like wearing a brand new shirt, and all I've been talking about all day is brand new. I was just like, a lot of people get like brand new tattoos, and most of them are like the Deja album art. Like it's always like either a band logo or their album art. But there are definitely ways that you can like put a twist on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, like all of your Johanna Newsom tattoos.
Very twisted.
Very twisted. You kind of like added your own like appeal to it.
I could definitely see that, and I think it definitely depends. Like if you're coming from a really creative background where you're like, I want to put the twist on it, I want to have it like stay true to the logo but kind of wear it my own way, and then some people just like flat out will get the exact logo. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like I said, I wanted like the Radiohead bear, and I've seen like looking up online, I've seen people who get like a whole chest piece of the Radiohead bear, and it's like, in my opinion, and it's just mine, I feel like it's a little more wearable to get something that isn't super identifiable. But then, as we were saying earlier, like, if you want to reach out to somebody in, like, who likes the same things as you and has the same music taste as you, and you always want to reach out to them, and you're like, if somebody likes Radiohead, there's somebody I like too. Every Radiohead fan is my friend. Then I think it's like, okay, get the very identifiable tattoo. But then if you just kind of want to wear it and it's your own thing, I could see like wanting to avoid that. So I think that's like...
Yeah, because you're definitely, like, you've talked about it a lot in your tattoo videos about how you're not really one who wants people like coming up to you and talking about your tattoos. So if you had like a logo on your arm, then that would be something that'd be super annoying. Yeah. Like I got approached the other day at Dunkin' Donuts. This dad came up to me. He's like, "Yo, I like your tattoos." And I'm just like, "Oh, thanks." And he was like, "Is that fresh, man?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, I just got this one." And he literally had like a Batman logo all across his forearm. I'm like, that is That is really cool.
It's very fresh.
Very fresh.
Very fresh.
So dark. I guess if you're into it, then that's cool.
So our next question kind of like leads into this one, and I feel like we kind of like talked through them earlier, and I feel like our answer was pretty good, but so do you think that music tattoos have shifted in recent years? With more social acceptance, are people straying away from like album art tattoos? And I feel like earlier on, you know, if you were probably going to get that tattoo when you were younger, and maybe you haven't like fully developed your taste, and you're like, I like this band and I'm dedicated to them, they changed my life, I'm getting the Green Day Kerplunk album art, and that's what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like before we had all this access to like shopping for tattoos and finding your favorite artist and you're like, I want them to do my tattoo no matter what, I just love what they do, you were probably more inclined to like go to a local shop and just like, you were like, I know I like that art, so I'm gonna get it as the tattoo, and no one can probably fuck it up.
Yeah.
So I feel like the question said, with like more social acceptance, like more popularity of tattoos, the internet with us constantly, there is no separation anymore between like finding the tattoo artist you love other than distance. Like, I feel like people are leaning more towards like getting more like artistic variations of like bands, like songs and lyrics, and straying from album art. I think that is like kind of a more recent thing. Not to say that like you don't have that like there's not someone out there who has like an interpretive tattoo of a song they like, but I think it's a lot more common.
Yeah.
And you said earlier like that you follow like Kurt, and he does a lot of those tattoos.
Yeah, we talked a lot about just like different tattoo artists that we both follow like on Instagram, especially just like Sad Boy Kurt. Like, I feel like he's definitely become known for his like album, like music inspired tattoo flash sheets. Like
Hannah has a tattoo from him.
Yeah, he's done like a Tiger's Jaw Charmer tattoo flash sheet. He just did a Turnover Peripheral Vision tattoo flash sheet. So he just like basically picks like an album, and then he creates his own style of art with it. Like it's definitely like his own thing. Like he doesn't, I don't really see any like album art interpretation in any of his flash sheets. Like he just might add like a snippet of some of like the song lyrics, and then just like his own design that he comes up with like from those lyrics, which is really cool.
I definitely think like, I'm not saying that this has never existed, but I do think I'm seeing a lot more of it like in the last few years. Like, I remember a couple years ago, like, Mike Adams was doing a ton of, like, Smith stuff. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, this is what I want. And it's cool because, like, I was, like, someone who didn't necessarily want, like, an in-your-face tattoo. So I think these, like, more subtle, like, music-inspired flash sheets are more wearable for someone like me who is a little more timid about being approached about tattoos. And I definitely can see the relationship between like more people are getting tattoos are becoming more socially acceptable. These artists are doing things a little like making flash, but it's like a little more different, and it is inspired by like newer trends, and I think that that's cool. I definitely am seeing a ton of people who are getting like these like, I guess more subtle tattoos that are music inspired.
Yeah.
So jumping from that, we got the question that was, how do you get a music tattoo without it being a text tattoo? Like, I see Kurt do a lot of the tattoos, but they like still have lyrics. Like, some people, they want just like a tattoo that is inspired by like music or concept that they really like, and they want to do that without the lyrics, so they can wear it, you know, just they know it's a band association.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you have a couple like that. Wasn't the one spider tattoo that you got from Ashley Love that's inspired by the Yellowbird song or something?
So Me Without You, they have this song called Yellow Spider. So I really like the song, I really like the album, I think it's one of my favorites, and as Me Without You has progressed, I feel like their music has changed so much. And I was like, I like that album. I'm going to get a yellow spider with yellow leaves. And that's just honestly the name of the song. Like, I kind of cheated. That one was pretty easy to get that one.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I'll post my legs online and some people are like, sick spider. But every once in a while, people are like, is that a Me Without You reference? And I'm like, got it.
You got me.
Got him. I feel like if you're looking for a tattoo that isn't so blatant, like, you could go to Kurt or Mike Adams, like Tron has a lot of those tattoos. You could get them and not get the lyrics attached, like, totally. But, like, when I'm thinking about my tattoos, like, I have a lot of tattoos inspired by, like, Joanna Newsom, and I have ones that are flat out lyrics, and then I have ones that aren't. I have other Me Without You ones too. It's kind of just like imagery. I feel like you listen to the song, and with Joanna Newsom, it's really easy. If you ever listen to any of her songs, I'll link one if you've never heard of one. And just listen to it and kind of just like do something else and think about how it makes you feel and like the imagery that comes to mind or like the daydream that it kind of inspires. And that's kind of how I'll get tattooed.
And I, you know, as I've already said, I'm a big brand new fan. And I was telling you earlier about how I'm planning on getting my stomach tattooed soon. And I've been like rolling this idea around in my head for like 2 or 3 years. I knew I really wanted a brand new tattoo, but I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't want to just get album art because so many people have like brand new album art tattoos, and I wasn't really sure if that style was what I wanted. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll just, like, my favorite album by them is by far The Devil and God, A Raging Inside of Me. It, like, impacted my life so much, and it still means a lot to me. So I knew I wanted to get something that just kind of related to that album as a whole. And I thought about just getting, like, the title of the album tattooed on me, and I was just like, I don't know about that.
I wanted a limousine tattoo.
Yeah, just get a limousine. That song.
I'll cry.
Oh my gosh, did you read about the meaning of that?
Yes, I'm dead.
Dead.
Ruined my
Oh my
life.
gosh, it changed everything about that song.
Changed
for me.
everything.
We have to link like the information about that song.
Oh my god, I remember I was in community college when I looked it up, and I went to school the next day, and I was like, fuck college kids.
So yeah, I finally like came up with the idea of getting I'm still into like traditional tattoo, so I was like, okay, there's like this traditional style that you don't see all the time, which is like the lady head with like the butterfly wings on each side of her head, and then I was going to get a snake kind of like wrapped around in her hair, and that would kind of just like reference like the devil and God with like the serpent and kind of like the angel, and that's kind of what I've come up with is like my artistic interpretation of that album.
Yeah.
It'll be something that'll fit in with the other tattoos that I have, and it'll just kind of be like my own little like secret like.
And it's something that you like, absent from everything, absent from the band's reputation or anything like that. If they were like Billboard top charts, or if you found them just because you walked into a show in your neighborhood, it's like. You had that interpretation, and that's the idea that came from it, and I think that that's so cool, and it's authentic. Yeah. It'll last forever.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool and really special, and you can leave it up to your artist, or you can just listen to some music that you love in your bedroom and think about how it makes you feel, and you can get the lyrics, you can get the album art, or you can get something really interpretive. But I think that music can influence tattoos, and I think that tattoos can influence music. I think that's really cool.
Heart tattoo, man.
Oh my god. So what are your final thoughts on everything? How do you feel about music, tattoos, music equals life tattoo?
I think this definitely was like a really interesting topic to tackle. There definitely isn't any like concrete answer to it. I think it's up to everyone on their own. Like, I feel like we do relate, to each other a lot, where we first kind of like were introduced to tattoos by being involved in the music scene. Like, that's just how we started out. We started out with music first, and then we kind of went on from there. So, personally, with my experience, I do feel like tattoos related to music a lot in my life.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily apply to everyone in the world.
I think that's really exactly how I feel, and I feel like my development and developing my personality, a lot of that, like, you know, unforcefully just came from the music that I liked and was interested in, and that's kind of the direction I went. And I just think that, like, obviously we get along, we have a lot in common, and we both have really similar answers because we've had, like, that same similar plight. And I think that people like us who do like the same music and stuff may have similar experiences like us, and that could be why they have tattoos. I think a lot of my tattoos are based off of music, either if it's just a feeling I had while listening to music or a feeling I had and I coped by listening to music. I definitely think that in my personal experience, there's a huge connection.
No, yeah, even one of the first tattoos that I got a shattered mirror on the side of my thigh, and I wanted these like words with it. It's destroy what destroys you. Oh. And I was kind of just like my own like representation of just reminding myself that like I survived, you know, eating disorders and depression and all of that all through high school, and like I fought myself through it, like destroy what destroys you, destroy those beauty standards and all of that. And I didn't even realize that those were lyrics. And like after I got the tattoo, I met some other punk kids and they're like, oh, I know that song, that's from that one punk band, I can't remember the name of it, but I was like, oh, okay, cool. So then I started listening to them. I was like, this is sweet. Yeah. And it makes it like feel even cooler. So
that's really cool. Definitely continue this conversation in the comments. Let us know how you feel. Check out the blog post. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, the blog post will be up later on tonight, donutjams.com. And we also have an Instagram and a Facebook page, so give those a like.
So thank you guys so much. Let us know, what is your connection with music? You might not be tattooed at all. You might just tune in every week for the conversation. But let us know, how did you find one or the other? Thank you so much for
this is awesome.
coming all the way from Harrisburg just to be on the show. I love everything that you said, and I'm super stoked for the collaboration.
Yes. Hopefully more in the future.
For sure. Yes. Let us know. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if it's your first time here, and until next week, see ya.
Bye.